Yeah, hi folks. Now today I want to cover Waitangi Day, Joe Biden and an interesting take on Donald Trump and the American elections by Tucker Carlson. So let's get started.
We stand for a country, as Philip Cooper said, we signed the treaty to become one people. When she was marching, where were you? When she was fighting and the legal trust was being put together, where were you? Well, some of us have got a record that we're proud of. And we're not going to be misdescribed. We're not going to be falsified. You asked me where we're going to be in 2040. I hope because we have focused on the fundamentals that people need. Safe, affordable housing. A house system we can all access. Hopefully not us, but our parents or our children. The third thing we want, the escalators of education to be open to everybody in this country and every Maori as well. But you can't have escalators of education when you've got 55% truancy in our country. Let's stop the nonsense. And the last thing we want is a salary and income that we can live on, sufficient to keep our culture and our way of life going. Those are the four things that we aspire to, and we'll go on fighting for them. And then I say to you, in 1935, a party came to power, a party called Power Labour came to power, and started doing that. And on and went to the National Party, and they stole the ideas and did that as well. And made us number one in the world. It wasn't hopeless, and it ain't hopeless now. But if you think separatism and division is going to take us to 2040, you're dreaming. And I'm telling you, let me tell you, sunshine, I used to go to the marae where they had a thing called tikanga and protocol and respect, and not you shouting. See what I mean? See? Get an education. Get some manners. You have plenty of time. You have people speaking here. You see what I mean? All of you had a chance to talk, but here he is. All right, okay. Well, that's not the way it's going to be in 2040. It's not the way it's going to be in 2040. So there you go.
Ignorance. They don't want to listen. They just want to shout down. And David Seymour got the same ignorant treatment.
But here's the rub, and here's where I get to with people who say that we're trying to somehow strip or deny the treaty. You see, it wasn't just partnership with Māori, it was partnership with many Māori. I saw Rowan Tippin there this morning. Fabulous school in Whangarei. Said, get us back to being a charter school tomorrow, please. I said, we'll do it as fast as we can. You know what? It was also partnership with Sir Michael Jones and the Pacifica community. It was also partnership with community groups that had no ethnic background whatsoever. And we should do it in health. You know what? And social service. We should have partnership. We're going to have.
And Luxon isn't listening either.
The National Party position is we don't support it. We do not want to do a referendum on the Treaty Principles Bill. We have a strongly held view that this is not something we support. We do not support it as a National Party, period.
Even though 60% of people already support it.
You would have heard Christopher Luxon yesterday. Do you think you can change his mind?
Yeah, look, I mean, last week he wouldn't rule out supporting it further. Yesterday he would. I think perhaps he got a bit nervous after Waitangi, but ultimately the bit I don't believe is that he won't change his mind if the public really want it. All politicians are very mindful of what the public want, and I've seen polls published in the Herald that said that 60% of New Zealanders agree with what we're saying on the treaty, 18% disagree. They want this debate.
And now to Biden.
So we begin with breaking news out of Washington, where the special counsel released a damning report regarding President Biden's handling of classified documents.
The Justice Department announcing they will not pursue criminal charges for his handling of the documents. However, the report contain multiple comments that may reinforce public concerns about the 81-year-old president's age and memory.
Fox 5's Chris Welch is live in the newsroom with a look at what the report details. Chris.
Yeah, Steve and Natasha, Special Counsel Robert Hur was extremely critical of President Biden's handling of sensitive government materials here. But once again, he does not believe that mishandling warrants charging him with a crime. In his report, he says Biden, quote, willfully retained and disclosed highly classified materials when he was a private citizen. Some of those materials even included sensitive national security documents. But, Hur says, evidence showed he kept the materials, quote, by mistake. But in declining to prosecute, Hur cites Biden's, quote, limited memory. In fact, in the report, investigators write, quote, we have also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory.
There is some movement, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. There's some movement. There's been a response from the opposition, but yes, I'm sorry, from Hamas.
Something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing.
I know what the hell I'm doing.
Mr. President, thank you. At the end of such a momentous event, the word thank you seems kind of inadequate. But for all the millions whose lives will be saved, for the communities where life will be transformed, thank you. So thank you, President Biden, for your...
And now to Tucker.
But you know that there is a collision coming between titanic forces, the population of America versus its leaders. And it's coming to a head because of the structure of this election. And so you have the Republican candidate, and he is going to be the candidate, whose election is the one thing. Well, I think it's kind of determined. And of course, it's politics, so it's filled with all sorts of, I mean, the amount of ugliness display beneath the surface in all politics everywhere is really awe-inspiring. You know, these people are really dirty everywhere, not just my country. You may know about that. But the one thing that the people in power, and I don't just mean in Washington in our government, I mean in our financial centers and entertainment centers, our country's kind of cool because they're identified by cities. So Los Angeles, New York, Washington make all the decisions, of course. And the one thing they won't tolerate is the orange man in power. And you sort of, and that, like, you wonder, well, why? Because Trump is not a radical at all. And Trump's vision for America, this is an informed assessment of Trump, Trump's vision for America is like Studio 54 in 1978. Like, I'm serious. Trump really loved the country he grew up in. He really loved it, and he means it. He loved the people who lived there. He loved its traditions, its weird little customs, its idiosyncrasies, and that's kind of what he wants. He doesn't want a brave new future of new things. He wants to return not to antebellum America, but to like 1980 America. And it's kind of hard to argue why that's bad, actually. And so that's not a revolutionary agenda, nor is it a counter-revolutionary agenda. It's a return to normalcy. And the phrase "make America great again" means return it to a period not so long ago when everyone was enfranchised and everyone had rights, but everyone was roughly, not everyone, but most people were sort of united in a sense of common purpose and culture. They were Americans, and they knew what that meant. We don't have that anymore, and that's Trump's vision. So you may not think that's possible. You may not think maybe that's even virtuous to want that. But if you think that's a grotesque hellscape that he's describing, you're the freak, not him. And yet they all feel that way. They mean it too. They really feel that way. It's not a joke. And so what's going to happen? And I guess I dissent a little bit from the much more optimistic view that you have, both of you, which I really appreciate hearing, and I want to believe it, but that in the end, the will of the people matters. The conclusion that I've come to is that it matters less than it should, and that the people in power really do make the bulk of the decisions. And I say that after spending 35 years in Washington and watching the agenda of both parties and comparing that agenda to the public opinion polling of what people actually want and finding no union set. No union set. Like, there's not the same agendas. And we have a democratic system where these people are elected every 2 years in the Congress, every 6 years in the Senate, every 4 years in the White House. And their agenda never changes, and the desires of the American public, by and large, are never met or even addressed. And you sort of, after a while, conclude, maybe it doesn't matter what people want, it only matters what the people in power want. I don't want to think that, but I don't know what other conclusion to reach. So what you have now is a legit mass movement on behalf of Donald Trump that's 100% real, and you have absolute ironclad resistance to the democratic process working its way to a legitimate conclusion by the people who have all the power. What happens next? I don't even know. And I'll sum it up this way. Today, it is a race in the foreseeable future between Donald Trump, the former president, now effectively the Republican nominee, and the incumbent president. He got more votes than Barack Obama somehow, because he's just so popular. It's just the magnetism. He spent the entire 2020 campaign moldering and deteriorating in his basement, and somehow he was more popular than Barack Obama. Right, okay. Anyway, so it's the race between Biden and Obama. I just don't see that happening. I just don't. And that, I hope to be wrong. I want to return to normalcy too. I'm the opposite of a revolutionary too. That's what I love about Trump. He doesn't want radical change. We're not actually made for radical change. We can't digest it. People hate radical change. They want kind of continuity, and I do too. But I just don't see this playing out the way it's currently formulated.
Yeah, I too would like to go back 40 odd years when there was no wokeness, when we had freedom, and when our country was less divided. And they call today freedom. Anyway, folks, I've posted all the relevant links below.